So we delve into those all-important issues as far as the latest CHRAJ report is concerned. In direct scope, the National Cathedral, Sweetie Abochi, and of course we have Edem Senanu joining the conversation. He's an anti-graft campaigner, and he is here with us. He's also co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Edem, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So just to lay the foundation before Sweetie Abochi comes in, what do you make? What's your perspective on the report as you've seen it?
Well, it's a very thoroughly laid out report within the context of the request for Honorable Sami Okudzeto-Ablakwa. And they go to pains to attach all the necessary documentation responses. A very large report. I started, I realized we have about 200 pages. So then I did a hop, skip, and jump, looked at the recommendations as well. But overall, I don't know what words to use, but it's unfortunate, it's disappointing, it is embarrassing, and I don't know how we got ourselves into this. So yeah, those would be my initial comments.
Unfortunate, embarrassing, disappointing. Edem, so from your perspective as an anti-graft advocate, does the ruling address the core accountability issues that were raised?
Yes, it does.
How so?
They went to a great extent to look at the administrative processes. And I was pointing out to George earlier at GBC that this is not like an accounting firm coming to see whether the money that came in is all accounted for. No, this is to say, did you follow due processes because public funds were involved? And once they went through the processes to check the laws, what the processes required, they've drawn the conclusions, they've made recommendations. I think they've done a very thorough job.
Well, CHRAJ is recommending a forensic audit of the project's financial management. How critical is this step, and what should be the key areas of this audit?
So what they are saying is, yes, the monies that came in, we can see the sources, we can see it was an account, we can see you gave this out to specific service providers, whether it's otherwise. But whether the value of those goods and services really represent the money giving and whether this country has received, therefore, value for money, we do not have the competencies to do that. So, and they are very specific. Auditor General, please do a value for money audit, which is possible. It's possible because you can look at similar projects in country, outside the country, and draw certain conclusions as to whether we indeed got value for money. For example, you pay 32 million for architectural drawings. Is that value for money? I mean, elsewhere, comparatively, what conclusions do you draw? Could we have done this differently? And I think that's a very valid recommendation to make. And yes, the Auditor General hopefully will not say they don't have the capacity to do that. Then there is the aspect of the breach of Act 663, where they said further investigation and potential prosecution. Could the team have known? And for me, it raises additional questions. First of all, I don't know how we constituted a board without ensuring that they had people with procurement expertise, project management expertise, perhaps they had financing and accounting, I don't know. But it raises at the operational level, at the management level, didn't they have officers who understood that they were handling public funds and who had the capacity to know the processes that ought to be followed? So what happened at the operational level? Who were the technical people there? How were they employed? How were they assigned? All of that needs to be uncovered, because if you had a good set of operational people, they should be raising the red flags and giving technical advice to the board and saying, no, in this thing, we've got to do it differently. We've got to get this approval. Without it, we can't proceed, etc. So there are substantive issues to be looked at.
Right. Ben?
Now, looking at some of those substantive issues that you make mention of, they talk specifically about the board of the National Cathedral, among others. It's very expansive. I just want to quote verbatim some of what is said. We put them out in our quote cards, news cards, and I just want to quote some of them. So right before I get into that, I don't want to say anything that is not the case. But they talk about the complicity of the board and how they themselves should face some sanctions. They talk about Ribade, the company involved, and how the actions of getting them on board were purportedly mired in corruption. I've found them now. So it says the procurement breaches that occasioned the award of the National Cathedral construction contract to Ribade Company Limited raise reasonable suspicion of corruption and corruption-related offences. Let me stay there for just a bit. Reasonable suspicion of corruption and corruption-related offences, but you would need more than that to tie anybody to legal sanctions, right?
Yes. What is the evidence to show that there was opportunity for personal gain to yourself or to your family and friends? I mean, you need some substantive evidence to show that indeed this particular service provider was selected because there was that opportunity and there are those relationships that were being leveraged. So definitely they would need to do much more than just make that statement. But yes, on the surface of it, they could have identified through the examination of responses to questions raised that there appears to be a reasonable case of corruption. And we would definitely need to look at the facts to go to ascertain whether they justify that conclusion.
You would see that the Auditor General had been called in to interrogate other matters. The former Auditor General, Daniel Yadomelevo, has said that the AG must probe and surcharge if he finds breaches in respect of the National Cathedral. But even there's that call, CHRAJ recommending that the Auditor General conduct forensic audit, and then there is the bit about possible prosecution of Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral. How far-reaching is that? Because if you look at that list, the sort of eminent Christian leaders and even others who are on that list, and those who have left, those who remained, and all of that, what do you see as far as that is concerned before Sweetie Amochi comes in?
Well, as I've been commenting since yesterday, clearly there was a lack of competency. The nature and the stature of such persons, I would be very hesitant, very reticent to say that all of them very consciously got themselves into this situation. You can't have a power backer. I mean, some of the names they just tell you. Yeah. I don't know whether these were active members. So then again, I think that we probably need some desegregation to find out whether they continue to be active members or they were just there in name. We do know that Doug Howard Mills protested at some point and exited. I don't know whether this did. So it may not be as, among others, homogeneous a group being together in taking the decisions, especially when they are actually at the minutes and they say, we just agreed amongst ourselves. It doesn't happen anywhere now. See, Corporate Governance 101. It tells me that we have a certain major deficit, especially amongst our clergy. We should never make this mistake again of saying we appoint. I don't even understand what the rules are for appointing such boards where we could just set up a board that is all clergy when we're dealing with public funds. I don't get it. Yeah. I assume that in the initial phase, maybe they were told this is not a public funds thing, and maybe that's how come they got onto the board. In which case, we got to the point where public funds were involved and red flags started to be raised. Sami Okujeto raised issues. Doug Howard. They themselves, even if retrospectively, should have sought the expertise of technical people who have the capacity to say, no, once public funds are involved, this is what should be done. Right. So it tells me that there's that deficit, especially amongst the clergy, handling such issues. It's not the first time in recent history that we've seen clergy appointed and things have happened that just make all of us feel very embarrassed. So I think that is something that needs to be addressed. Appointing such boards must have the necessary technical competencies, and we have to check what happened at the management level, because again, I'm wondering who was at the management level that didn't give them the feedback that, look, these issues being raised are substantive issues we should be very cautious about.
Okay, we do have to go, but I just want your quick commentary, or should I say reflection, on the exoneration of Reverend Kusi Boateng. Is this really an exoneration before we go? What do you make of that?
What was he exonerated on? Is it on the money issue? If it's a money issue,
I think the double identity, yeah.
The double identity, I'm not quite sure about. I've said that until I hear Reverend Kusi Boateng himself say he don't have 2 passports. I mean, I haven't seen him say that. He has not contested the fact that he has 2 passports with 2 names. I'm not aware that he's done that. So if you're aware, please advise me. Until I hear that, I have a difficulty accepting that part of the CHRAJ report. I think they just didn't have the material evidence, and so they say, okay, without that, you know. But I mean, the court of public opinion, so far there hasn't been that, you know, rigorous, robust denial that then says, you know, I have a great difficulty accepting that conclusion.
All right.
Thank you so much, Edem Senanu, co-chair Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Then.
Well, we have to go, but that's it. Basically, when it comes to the double identity bit, the CHRAJ did not get into that matter. But the bit about the 2+ million,
1 passport that is in our records.
Yeah. But the 2-point-something million, that it was clear, that was what CHRAJ dealt with. So this matter of a double identity, but the High Court has even got into that case. So let's leave it there.
Leave it at that.
Well,
okay.
This is how we draw the curtains on this aspect of the conversation. But we'll be back shortly with more conversations for you. Do stay.